Hello everybody, welcome. Today is Wednesday, which means it is our weekly What's New Wednesday, and today I'm going to be sharing some information with you guys about sea glass patterned pieces like this one. Isn't this amazing? And sea glass bottle lips in honor of our upcoming live stream event, our next live stream event, which is going to be May 22nd and May 23rd. So we always like to take the time to talk about the unique history and the value regarding these pieces before we have a really unique live stream. We always get a lot of questions about these items every time we have them. A lot of you are always wondering, how does that piece of sea glass actually get that pattern on it? Are you etching it in there? Does it come on the bottle? So we're going to answer all those questions today and talk about it. But all of these beautiful patterns come on the original piece of sea glass. We don't alter the sea glass. We certainly don't etch any of these patterns in, and that's what gives them so much meaning and makes them so unique. So we're going to be talking about that today. Before I jump into that, we have so many new faces here on Instagram and on Facebook. So if you are new to us and to our company, welcome. I'm so happy to have you here. My name is Carla, and I'm the owner and lead designer here at Lead to Sea Glass Jewelry. And myself and my team, we create one-of-a-kind, beautiful pieces of jewelry set in sterling silver using authentic beach-found sea glass. And here's one of the rings. This is a bottle lip ring, and this pendant, these are going to be in our live stream. This pendant has some beautiful, you can see when I kind of move it to the light, this has some beautiful letters on it. So we're going to look at pieces like this today of the raw sea glass. So if you're not familiar with us, that's a little bit about our company. I've been in business now for 23 years this year, and we love hosting live stream events. Myself and Sam, who is my manager and my sister-in-law, we do live streams once a month, and then in between on Wednesdays, we like to host what we call our weekly What's New Wednesday, which you're watching the informational video now for our weekly What's New Wednesday. Excuse me. And sometimes on our weekly What's New Wednesdays, we feature limited edition jewelry drops, and sometimes we feature informational videos like what you're watching now. And then always the Wednesday before our live stream event, we always do a preview because I like you to be able to see the entire jewelry collection before we have the live stream event. That way you can plan your purchases, see if there's anything in there that you like, and just be able to get to see everything ahead of time, because during our live streams, a lot of things move quickly. So tonight for our weekly What's New Wednesday, that's what we're going to be taking a look at. And I will save this video, so we'll save it to our feed. So if you're not able to, stay right now and watch the whole thing, no worries. You can watch it at any time that you like. We'll save this for you. So we are going to be jumping in and looking into the tides of history and uncover these beautiful pieces. They are not just decorative patterns. All these beautiful patterns and letters and bottle lips are actually clues to the past, to uncovering and discovering the original bottle source that these pieces stemmed from. So I'm going to actually flip my camera around here. I have a bunch of sea glass bottles set up. I have some loose pieces of sea glass to show you so you can see what they look like before they're actually made into jewelry. And if you have any questions, please let me know. You're more than welcome to post your questions in the comments below. And I would love to know what you think of all these pieces, or if you have any questions, maybe you found a really beautiful piece of sea glass and you're wondering where it came from. I don't, of course, even though I've been working with sea glass for so long, I don't have all of this information stored in my brain. Most often when we find a cool piece, like I found this piece just this past week when I was taking some videos down at the beach, and it's really not like jewelry quality yet. It's still pretty rough, but it has these beautiful markings on it. So I wanted to research it and see what this stemmed from. So this is actually an antique gin bottle that was, the bottle itself was made in the late 1800s, which is really cool. So a lot of times with the patterns and the markings on them, you can Google them, you can research them and see. Sometimes you have to look through some pictures of antique bottles and see what you can match them up with. So let me turn the camera around so I can show you what we've got set up here. So here are, let me just get my lights over here. So here are some bottles. Let's first start with some bottle lips. So we love to highlight sea glass bottle lips in some of our jewelry. They are hard to feature because a lot of the bottle lips are curved. So the bottle lip is here, and just to show you what this looks like in an actual bottle, I have a few sea glass bottles that I pulled out here. The lip of the bottle refers to this area here. So this is where the cap would screw on, and it makes these beautiful like three-dimensional raised patterns here. And so you can see this was from a little bit bigger of a bottle, but that's what that stems from. So when we talk about bottle lip, that's what we're referring to. And I did pull out just a couple other pieces for anybody that's new, if you're watching some of our videos or seeing some of our past collections, so that you know what we're referring to. Something like this is the bottom of a bottle. So a round bottle, you can see the top of it here came straight up. And sometimes, you know, depending on the thickness of the bottle, if the bottle sides came up over here and were really thin, and this bottle like hit and broke just right, it was able to crack here and then have this entire bottle bottom, you know, just detach from the actual bottle. And you can see now it's really smooth. This is a very thick piece of glass. This has most likely been in the ocean for over 100 years, tumbling smooth to get this level of frosting and smoothness, which is really fun. So this is really large piece. If I hold it in my hand, you can see we most likely won't make jewelry out of this, but I do, of course, have a sea glass collection, so this is part of our collection. Sometimes when we're able to source smaller pieces, like for instance, a bottle of this size, if this bottom were to come out, that would make a really cool ring or maybe a really cool pendant. So sometimes we use bottle bottoms or the tops of bottles that will come off. They're completely round. Excuse me. Sometimes we'll use those for jewelry. So you might hear us referring to bottle tops or bottle bottoms sometimes. And then going back to the bottle lip, I do have several pieces here. And sea glass to show you. This is like the edge of a bottle, not necessarily the bottle lip. We have one here in white, which is really fun as well. And so this is a nice flat piece, but what happens often with the bottle lip, because it's at the top, the rounder part of the bottle where the cap screws on, a lot of times we find curved pieces like this. And so for us, in order to have a piece set into a ring or into a pendant for jewelry, we do like the bottom of the piece, the sea glass piece, to be flat so that it can sit flat inside of the setting. So you can see this one does sit flat. This piece is thicker to one side and thinner to the other. So when we create the bezel, we just shape the silver around it. So this side is lower and that side is higher, but then you can see the overall like shape and character of the piece of sea glass. So even though we have an amazing collection and we have so many pieces, these are all like patterns and bottle lips in here, there are only certain pieces that we can use in jewelry. So we do definitely go through everything and decipher what pieces we can use and what pieces we can't. And so for our bezel settings, we do always prefer a flatter piece of sea glass. Here's a ring that we'll have in our upcoming live stream on the 22nd and the 23rd, and you can see this has the beautiful bottle lips in here, very smooth, like very worn. So it's a very old piece of sea glass, but it's nice and flat, so we were able to utilize that in one of our jewelry pieces. So that's a little bit about the bottle lips. It's really hard. You can't really date you can't really date a bottle by the bottle lip markings that I am aware of anyways. The pieces of sea glass that you can date are the pieces that are going to have the words and patterns on them. So we're going to take a look at those next. There's just a couple more examples of the bottle lip. I love the bottle lip. I love that linear marking to them. I think that it's just so pretty. It's so cool. Here's one that says Coca-Cola. That's the side of a Coca-Cola bottle. So most often you will see that we use some bottle lips in our sea glass pieces. Here's a green one, but we don't have a ton of them. We've been saving them to use in our live stream that's coming up because usually of the fact that they don't always lay flat. It's really hard for us to find a flat piece of sea glass with the bottle lip marking so that it fits well to be made into jewelry. And I just want to show you the difference. This one here where it has this linear pattern and then like a flat a flat area of glass and a linear pattern. This I would consider a pattern piece of glass, whereas something like this where you can see those distinct raised markings, this would be a bottle lip, but this one would be a pattern. Okay, so let's move over to talking a little bit about some of the markings that you can find on the pieces of sea glass themselves. So this is actually an antique Coca-Cola bottle. You can see some of the letters here and a little bit of that Coca-Cola symbol. Unfortunately, this piece, when I found it, had cracked. It looked like it was a pretty old, like beautifully worn piece of sea glass, but it must have cracked in its journey. This is another piece that has very faint markings here that say Coca-Cola. So a lot of these Coca-Cola bottles that they're this beautiful like soft seafoam color, they were made in the early 1900s. And of course nowadays, you know, with the movement of the glass to plastic, they are still produced, but not like they were before. So this color and this type of Coca-Cola bottle is becoming harder and harder to find. Here's another one over here. So those are really fun to find for sure. And this one is from a 7-Up bottle. You can see it has the letters on it. So let me show you a Noxzema bottle. If you guys were on our last live stream, we were kind of talking about some of the iconic bottles that we're familiar with. You can see this one says OX, and it has that beautiful cobalt blue. This one too, OX. This was from a Noxzema bottle, and I actually, let me see if I still have it. I had pulled up a picture. Yeah, here it is to show you guys. So you can see like NOX, and that kind of went in a horizontal. So this piece of sea glass has the O and the X. So that would be from the bottom of that bottle. And these were produced in like the 1930s, 1940s. So, you know, this piece of sea glass is almost 100 years old, which is really cool. And you can tell that too by the smoothness of the outside edge of the piece of sea glass, whereas this piece is relatively new. There's really not much hydration to the surface. So another telltale sign when you're looking at a piece of sea glass, if you're wondering like if it's newer or if it's older, I mean, this one even has a few shiny spots. It's not necessarily, you know, the smoothest pieces of sea glass, but you can tell it's a lot more worn than a piece like this. So when a piece of glass enters the ocean and it starts the hydration process, what happens is the pH levels of the ocean and of the salt water actually hydrate the surface of the glass and allow it to be broken down. And then when the piece of glass gets stuck in the waves, gets stuck in the ocean, that hydration process is what allows the surface to be broken down and smoothed down by the waves and the sand in time. And it takes anywhere from like 50 to 100 plus years for a piece of glass to go from this to really smooth like this one. You can see this one, see all the pitting? It almost looks like it has like some frosting or like looks like little crystals on the surface of it, like a little sugar coating. That's actually the hydration process. So that's what the sea glass looks like after it's being hydrated and then, you know, smoothed down in the ocean over time. So a piece of sea glass like this, this one's cool too. It has the pattern on it, is, you know, over 100 years old, most likely. So just to show you the difference from this to this. So when you're a piece of sea glass, if you find a piece of sea glass that has, you know, markings that are like this, that are a little bit easier for you to be able to search up and find what it is connected to, that's always helpful when it has letters, or if it has like a maker's mark number, like this one has 8-B-34. That's how we were able, you know, to take a look and see what this one was all about. But sometimes you might find pieces that are like this, that are a little bit harder to date or a little bit harder to figure out what they came from. And in some cases you can trace them and figure them out, and in some cases I haven't been able to. This is a piece of sea glass that's from Japan, and you can definitely tell from this beautiful circular pattern and then this gorgeous starburst pattern that this is most likely like an antique vase or maybe like discarded tableware, something that was definitely like a little candy dish, beautiful decorative piece, but maybe there wasn't a huge amount made in production So, like the Coca-Cola bottle, of course, was largely produced, and the Noxzema bottles were largely produced. Pieces like this with the patterns are more often antique vases, antique tableware, like more limited edition typed pieces, and they are a lot harder and rarer for me to find anyways. I'd love to know. You can let me know in the comments below if you ever find pieces that have patterns like this, or more often if you find bottled bottles with like letters, which is really interesting. I don't tend to find a ton of patterns, especially not patterns that are this beautiful and this intricate. I love this one. So I'm going to show you a couple pieces of jewelry that we have for our upcoming live stream that have amazing patterns. So this is also a piece that's from Japan. This has an amazing, beautiful, like smoky cornflower color, and you can see the pattern is beautiful pattern in here. So the pieces of sea glass that we end up using in our jewelry, we always want to make sure meet a certain criteria. So of course they have to be flat so that they sit beautifully in our settings. We also want to make sure there's beautiful overall frosting and there's not like chips or cracks. We want to make sure the piece of sea glass is what we refer to as jewelry quality. So that means there's no chips and there's no cracks, and the piece of sea glass itself has beautiful rounded edges and really nice overall frosting from years and years spent in the ocean. So this is a great pendant. And then we also have this amazing piece here, which has like some shimmering, really cool like shimmering color inside of the sea glass, which is awesome. And then of course we have some bottle lip pieces that are like the ring I'm wearing and this beautiful olive ring. So let me see, I have some of my sea glass pieces over here to the side because I just want to show you some different patterns. So this would be a really cool pattern piece. This piece is actually from Israel. It's got a gorgeous pattern to it. We have this white piece that has this like light checkerboard pattern. You can see when it catches the light. Here's a beautiful bottle lip. I do find bottle lip pieces more often in the cobalt, more often in the cornflower, and in the white. I don't find a lot of bottle lip pieces in the aqua. And it's funny because as I was researching some of the bottles, I noticed that a lot of the aqua bottles have just a top like this. So I think maybe they were more intended for like a cork. Even on this one, laying down over here, you can see the top of it only has like one little lip here. It doesn't have that same pattern that some of these other bottles have, where they have like the multiple layers of like that bottle lip to it. So that definitely could just be the type of bottle that it came from as well. So these bottles back here are not necessarily sea glass bottles. This one I found at the ocean. These are all actual sea glass bottles, which is so fun. So you can see the entire bottle started turning to sea glass. It has minimal chips and cracks along the top. So these are all antique bottles. This little white one, isn't that so cool? And then this is the top of a bottle. This is beautiful purple, just like the bottleneck that got broken off right here, but became a beautiful piece of sea glass. And then this bottle was actually dug up when my house was being built, so it was like buried in the land. And so I just wanted to show you, before the glass is stuck in the ocean, where it's originating from. So a lot of times these older, especially like medicine bottles or old elixir bottles, they looked like this. So when you're seeing like letters and patterns, along your piece of sea glass, this is just an example of where it could originate from, which is really fun. So I held on to that one. These bottles over here don't have any markings on them, but this one and this little one here, actually, which I'll show you, is from Japan, has bubbles in it. So another telltale sign of an older piece of glass is that if a piece of sea glass has bubbles in it, bubbles, just air bubbles, you can see here, used to get trapped a lot inside of the glass during the manufacturing process. With the techniques of manufacturing glass that are widely used nowadays, it doesn't happen as often. This is more from like blown glass So that's always a really nice indicator of either an older type of glass, an older bottle source, or a handmade product if the glass is originating from like a hand-blown glass, maybe like artisan piece of glass. So this is actually an aqua glass fishing float from Japan, and it's a small one, so I just thought it would be a really fun example to show you guys to put out here. Here is another beautiful patterned piece that I showed you earlier. This one, it kind of reminds me of like Medusa's hair because it kind of has these like snake-like patterns or like sun rays that kind of come out to the side, which is really fun. And then let's see. So here, this one says B-O-T-T. I'm guessing that says maybe bottle over there. So that was most likely, you know, a bottle like this that had the raised letters. So a question that we get asked a lot is a lot of people, especially with the pattern pieces of sea glass, when we've showcased them, they'll say like, oh my gosh, that pattern is beautiful. Are you guys actually embossing that pattern in the sea glass? So we don't ever emboss the sea glass. We don't ever alter it. And there really, you know, is no way to do that for it to come out looking smooth. But our intention with our jewelry and with the pieces is we love preserving the historic value of each. I just think there's so much history, there's so much uniqueness in each piece. And so these beautiful embossings where you can feel those like raised letters, that is actually stems from the original bottle source. So whatever letters were on the original bottle before it got broken up, you know, stuck in the ocean and turned into sea glass, that's where it comes from. It's on there right from the beginning. And the same thing with these pattern pieces. This pattern was in the original bottle. So maybe this piece was, you know, a beautiful piece of art glass or maybe a beautiful tableware, and it had these really cool etched like linear markings in them, and then somehow that piece of glass got stuck in the ocean and it broke, and this little piece of sea glass tumbled smooth over, you know, again, this one's very smooth, so 50 to 100 plus years, and then washed up on the shore and waited for somebody to find it. So that's just a little information about that. So there's so many different patterns, so many cool pieces that are so rich in history. And you can also tell the history depending on the color as well. Like I know a lot of the cobalt bottles were made a lot in the early 1900s, late 1800s. The same thing with this aqua color of these bottles that I showed you earlier. Those were usually produced prior to 1920, and then they switched over their colors. So sometimes just the color alone can give you a little bit of information and help you date that, you know, exact piece and figure out what time period it was, especially if you're finding a piece of like Depression era glass that's like a soft yellow or a soft pink. That will help you as well. And of course, knowing the origin, but depending on where you're located, like if you find a piece of sea glass in Massachusetts, doesn't necessarily mean that it had to originate in Massachusetts. I mean, these pieces of sea glass can definitely travel, or maybe somebody traveled to that area and had, you know, a bottle with them and it somehow got stuck into the ocean. So there's so many opportunities. There's so many different scenarios that can happen. It's so fascinating. It's so interesting to me. This one's cool. Here's a light yellow that has some beautiful like raised patterns on it. And there we go. So let me see. I'm just going to dig through here and see. This was a cool one. This isn't quite a piece of sea glass yet, but this is a fun one that my brother and I found on the coast of Massachusetts, and I think it looks like a little Miss Pac-Man. So we actually had to like move a rock and move so much stuff. We were down at a little piece of a beach area that my great-grandmother, my great-grandparents actually used to have a cottage on, and the cottage blew away in a hurricane. And so when we saw this underneath a rock, I mean, it was like, you know, 30 years later, but I had to pull it out because I was wondering if this was maybe from one of her little candy dishes that she used to have, you know, she had all these little candy dishes on the windowsill of her cottage. And so it just reminded me of that. So even though this one isn't quite sea glass yet, I fished that one out from underneath a rock because it just had some sentimental value there. Here's another one that has, you can see, I think it says like receiving down here. Has some really cool like embossed letters to it. Let's see. Here's another bottle bottom. So that's the bottom of a bottle that has come out. Kind of dropped down. Some very faint letters. Sometimes you think that they're completely smooth, and when you look at them and let the sunlight shine through, or kind of turn it to the side for the light to catch the embossing, you can see it looks like it says P-I, like a P and an I right on the bottom. Oh, this one's cool. That one has the M with the circle around it, which is really fun. So that is some information about the Sea Glass bottle lips and the Sea Glass embossed pieces. I'm going to turn the camera around. Hello. I would love to know if you guys have found any, I'm just going to shut these lights off because they get so hot. I would love to know if you guys have found any pieces of sea glass that have embossings on them, if they have the bottle lip marking, maybe a pattern, maybe some really cool letters. Definitely do a little Google search, see if you can find what it means, see if you can find like the original bottle maybe that it stemmed from. And if you love collecting sea glass, if you are a history nerd like I am with all of these fun things, and I love the history of the sea glass. I think too, you know, the cool part about it is that for the journey of it to go through, to become this smooth piece of sea glass, it has to tumble smooth for all those years. It has to land in the ocean to begin with. It has to break against something, and then it has to wash upon the shore, and just at the right time for you to walk by and see it before somebody else does. So there's just so many fun things about these. And with our sea glass jewelry live streams that we host, I always like to do something really fun and different, a really unique theme. So we have been looking through all of our sea glass pieces. We have a huge tower in our studio that's labeled, and we save all different types of pieces. So we have been working on this beautiful jewelry collection for you guys for a very long time, for about 6 months, and collecting sea glass for it for years. So if this is something that you're interested in, definitely mark your calendars. It's going to be the 22nd and the 23rd. Isn't that so fun? This one has an R and I think like half of like an E cut off over here on that side. So definitely mark your calendars for the 22nd and the 23rd. And I always do a preview ahead of time. So the Wednesday before our live stream, I always like to go live about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'll show you a preview of all the jewelry so you can see it ahead of time and you know what to expect. So yeah, we've got that coming up, and I will save this video for you to comment below, interact, let me know what you find. I'd love to know the finds that you have and also where you found them. And then if you are new and you're not yet on our VIP email list, you're welcome to join. You can comment VIP below, and we do a lot of events every single month. We usually have about 2 What's New Wednesday, sometimes 3, depending on how many Wednesdays are in the month. What's New Wednesday jewelry collections of limited edition jewelry, and then we do our one live stream event every single month as well. So we always send out an email for you guys with your schedule so that you know what's coming up for the month ahead, and I do post it here on Instagram and Facebook as well, a schedule just so you know what we've got going on. So if you would like to comment VIP below, I'll send you a link. You can join our community, and that will get you the email in the future at the beginning of the month so that you know what's going on with our schedule. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope you enjoyed looking at a little bit of our sea glass collection. And again, I'll be reading your comments below. I hope you all have a lovely evening, and I will see you soon. Next week, I will see you on Wednesday with our emeralds. We're doing green sea glass with emeralds for the May birthstone, so definitely stay tuned for that. Okay, have a great night. Take care. Bye-bye.